In this video, we are diving deep into one of the most important parts that you hold, your shadow. The struggles that you seem to be facing over and over and over again, the patterns that you can't seem to break, the potential that you know you have inside, but can't seem to unleash into your reality, all comes down to one thing, and that is learning how to work with your shadow. And that's what I'm gonna teach you today. But what is shadow work? Shadow work is the practice of integrating the parts of yourself that you have rejected and repressed. These are the parts of yourself that you don't really love. But your shadow is also the holder of your true potential, because your shadow, your dark side, was actually created out of sole purpose to protect you. It was literally born out of self-preservation, even if it protects you in twisted ways. It's very important to work with the shadow to integrate these parts of yourself, because otherwise the things that you usually feel, right, how your shadow comes out will be through insecurities, procrastination, or those parts of yourself that keep you from doing the things that you want to do, doubt, fears. All of those things are accumulated inside your shadow, and if you're not integrating these parts of yourself, they're going to continue to bleed out in your relationships, bleed out in your personal life, your career, etc. So how do you do shadow work? Now, there's quite a lot of people that when talking about shadow work, they recommend you to journal. And we're gonna get into that a little bit later. But you've probably seen shadow work in terms of the shadow work journal, the shadow work prompts. Those are useful to an extent because it sheds light on your triggers, it sheds light on your shadow, but that's all it does. Shedding light on your shadow is not gonna integrate it. So I'm gonna teach you how to do that now. First, let's understand where the shadow comes from. It comes from the first 7 years of your life, okay? Because your subconscious mind was created in the first 7 years of your life, and your shadow lives inside your subconscious. This is why a lot of the time we cannot notice it, or we don't notice our patterns and behaviors, because it's very subconscious. The interesting thing about this is that we usually think time works in a linear form, and it's really not that case. It works more in like a spiral, where things that you go through in the first 7 years of your life that were emotional, because we don't really have an ego to discern how something went, to give something order, to give it logic. We really only had our emotions. So it was even double the impact if something happened to you that you may not think was traumatic at this age, but to a child it was. For example, in the first 7 years of your life, if you have an energetic distortion, let's say you are with your mom and you just start painting on the wall, you're like, okay, well, I'm being creative, and then your mom comes, catches you, screams at you, even slaps you in the hand. In that moment, first of all, you don't know why she's pissed. You just know she got pissed at you because you were creatively expressing yourself. And she scared you as well because your mom, right? Like she screamed at you. And in that moment, you decided you didn't want to be screamed at again. In that moment, you decided that your creativity was something that if you express, you're gonna get screamed at, you're gonna be threatened. And by the way, you depend on your parents for survival. So them rejecting you in this way, neglecting those sides of you, right, makes you starve for survival, basically. So it's double the impact, or I would say triple. It's a very big impact in the subconscious mind, and especially because you are intaking everything from an emotional standpoint, right, a vibrational standpoint, because emotions are energy in motion. So this little distortion in your timeline with all of that charged up energy gets imprinted in the first 7 years of your life, and then it starts to repeat throughout your life. You will see this aspect of yourself being shown to you over and over and over again. How? Through your vibration. Remember, this was vibrational. There wasn't much order here because, you didn't really have a set ego when you were a kid, so there's not much order, right? You could have a memory that is traumatic to your inner child, but you think it's nothing at this age, but it's still making you, or it's still influencing the way that you behave with your life. So it's gonna keep showing itself to you in ways where you're able to work with it. And it's showing itself to you in the form of emotions. This also happens with positive emotions, okay? So there's not just energetic distortions, there's also energetic imprints that happen, and those are awesome, but they all come from the first 7 years of your life. And yes, I do believe that ancestral trauma is like 98% of your trauma. And this man that I truly love, his name is Bruce Lipton, he speaks about how in genetics, right, in our DNA, we have all of the perceptions, emotions, and overall memories from our ancestors, good and bad, or negative and positive. So when you are put into this world, right, your epigenetic markers are filled with everything from your ancestors. So in your body right now, you have your entire ancestry living through you. So the triggers, the shadows, and all the stuff that you have is really coming from your ancestors, and you have it all right now. Okay, you have everything, and it's ready to be processed. This is why there's a lot of these things called breaking generational curses, because this is actually manifested in your DNA. And then from your DNA manifests in the first 7 years of your life, and then that creates everything. So even if you didn't meet your parents, right, even if you were adopted, you have no idea who your ancestry was, you're still going to be living those experiences in different ways, right? If you had stayed with your parents, it would be through your parents, and you would have gone through similar trauma, but you will still continue to have those experiences being manifested in your life, but in different ways because you didn't meet them. But aside from that, we're not going to get into ancestor trauma too much in this video because it's more about shadow work. Anyway, something really interesting about the shadow self is that it is really manifested into your perception, right? Your perception of how you see things, because nothing actually means anything. Like, really think about that. How do you know what you're looking at right now? Like, this video is called a video. How do you know what I'm speaking about? Because you know the words, they have been taught to you. Right? You know you're watching this on a laptop or a phone because you have been taught that what you're holding is a phone, okay? So your perception of everything is really just things that you have been taught, that you have been programmed with. But is it really that? Or do you really have no idea what you're seeing right now? The meaning, the reality that you're seeing right now has everything to do and is being consistently formed depending on your perception. Because in reality, what we really know is that you don't know anything. Nothing means anything until you give it a perception. Really think about that. But the interesting thing is that when you do give a perception, you're giving it in basis of your past, because your brain wants to save power. So let's put it into a better perspective. Let's say you are walking in the grocery store and then you're buying your things and the cashier is very rude to you. Right? She's just, trying to hurry you up. She's being super rude. And you could be in that moment like, oh, I don't like her. Like, why are you so mean? You can even get into a fight with her, right? Because you gave it that perception. But you could also have the perception of, man, she could be having a hard day. And you know what? Tell her, I hope you have an amazing day, and try to brighten her day up, right? Those will have different outcomes. And so usually the outcome that is very negative, the outcome where you get offended, where you feel judged or whatever, that's gonna come from a place of the past. That's gonna come from a perception you've had on the past, because your shadow works off of perceptions that are stored in your subconscious. What are really your memories? All of your memories, right? Because we're talking about the shadow. The shadow comes from the subconscious, and from the subconscious, it comes from the emotions that you held in the first 7 years of your life. Those are tied to core memories that manifest throughout life. Your memories, what they really are, is perceptions of events from the past, but they're not actually what happened. They're just perceptions. Remember that. They are just perceptions. So no, you can't change your past, but you can definitely change the vibration of the perception you held on it. And that, my friend, is how you actually reprogram the subconscious mind and you integrate the shadow. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the first step towards doing this, and that is to feel your emotions. So since these perceptions are being presented to you in the form of vibration, right? You're either getting angry, you're getting doubtful, you feel insecure, you feel shame, sadness, whatever it is, it's coming to you in the form of a vibration, okay? The shadow communicates in vibration. But if you really think about it, when these emotions are coming to you, right? Remember of the spiral timeline. It is emotions that are being sent by your inner child, okay? So when you feel your emotions and they're very negative, in those moments, what you really want to do is feel them. You don't want to suppress them, because when you're suppressing your emotions, you're only stacking them up more and more and more in your subconscious mind, and those are actually what end up creating your reality and directing your behavior in your daily life, and that's how you get held back, right? But we're here to shed those layers. So it's important to feel your emotions and see, most importantly, see your emotions as your inner child coming to you, okay? Your shadow is there for you to be with it, understand it, and have compassion for it. That's really what's gonna drive this change. You want to see it as your inner child. You're here to parent yourself in this moment. So you start off with validating your emotions. It's fine to feel this way. I have all the right to feel this way, right? Invite the emotion in. This is very, very, very important. And the reason why validation is important is because when you were a child, you were most likely not validated. You were told to, not feel your emotions. You were told that you were crazy for feeling your emotions, right? Like your mom telling you, oh, why are you crying? You shouldn't be crying. And especially in Latino households, a lot of us are told literally not to feel, or like, I'll give you something to cry about kind of energy. A lot of us, even when people or parents were validating, it wasn't in the right way. So it's important to help yourself feel validated by you. So after you validate yourself, when you feel like you have really settled with that emotion, you want to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Okay, we're going to be doing a little bit of my memory regression method here, which I actually use with my clients in order to help them reprogram their subconscious mind and integrate these aspects of themselves to tap into their highest potential. So when you ask yourself in this moment, you're holding this emotion, you ask yourself, when was the first time that I felt you? You can actually access the memory. But most of the time, we actually don't remember the memory because most of us don't remember our childhood, right? I mean, I do remember quite a lot of it. Some of us don't, but a lot of these traumatic memories could even be inside the womb, okay? It literally could even be inside the womb. So most of us are not gonna remember that. And the way that we actually remember them is through vibration, because remember, those memories get stored in the form of vibration. Sometimes it could come up cognitively though. That's very normal, but most of the time it's not gonna come up to you cognitively. So if you don't remember it, like actually picture it in your mind, it's okay. But the moment that you ask yourself, when was the first time that I felt you, you are going to start getting access to the memory, okay? And it could be in the forms of sensations, right? You can start feeling small, very insecure, right? Really target how you feel, right? Because your feelings are emotions and thoughts coming together, right? So it's not just emotion. You want to target how you're feeling in this moment. Are you feeling small? Are you feeling ugly? Are you feeling insecure? Are you feeling useless, worthless, right? Those are feelings. Those are not emotions, right? So when you start to target that, you start to feel the memory in those moments. So even if you don't remember it, but if you do remember it, that's cool, right? That's awesome. Either way, what you want to do in that moment, whether you remember it or not, you want to visualize you being with your inner child, and your inner child feels that way. They're there with you, and you want to tell them, hey, it's okay to feel this way. Once again, validate them. It's okay to feel this way. Allow them to have a space to feel their emotions, right? If they feel too overwhelmed by you being on top of them, right? Don't be on top of them, right? Just be there, hold the space for them. And then after that, you want to ask them, what's going on? Why do you feel that way? And they're gonna start answering you. So this is another way to unlock what may have happened in the memory. Why do you feel that way? What happened here? You can start to almost like change the visual depending on what your inner child answers. And you really don't want to rush this process, okay? You don't want to rush this process because that could lead your inner child to not trusting you. When you're holding the space for them, you want to help them have a different perception. That would be the change of perception. Remember, you want to change the perception, okay? So you want to perhaps work with them and let them know what's going on. Right? Give them that order, give them that logic that they didn't have back then. Explain to them maybe the situation and why it happened that way, and do it from a place of compassion. Be like, hey, your friend probably called you ugly because she feels that way about her, and it has nothing to do with you. It was more personal. It was never personal. It was something that she was feeling all along. And the best that you can do is wish her love and wish her, hope that she can see that she's beautiful as well, right? So she doesn't have to project like that onto others. That is a more compassionate way to approach the situation, right? To reprogram that perspective. For example, once again to that little child drawing on the walls and their mom comes and screams at them. In that moment, you could tell them, hey, your mom paid for these walls. She paid it with money, right? And that's probably why she didn't want you to that's probably why she didn't want you to draw on them. And she shouldn't have screamed at you, but she probably did because she was dealing with her own stuff. And it's her first time also, dealing with this situation, but it has nothing to do with you, okay? You will not get screamed at again if you creatively express yourself. You can still paint, just not on the walls. The whole point here is to shift the perspective towards being safe, okay? Remember, the shadow is only there to protect, but it's protecting in weird ways, right? keeping you back from the things that you want to do because it's scared that you're going to be rejected. It's scared of success. It's scared of all of these things, right? So the whole point in these moments is to help your inner child feel safe. Feel safe with you, feel like they can do that activity without them having the consequences of what happened in that memory. Shift their perspective. That is the whole point. And even if you don't have a visual or anything like that, and you need to do it quick because you don't have the time, right? You're at work, feeling your emotions alone, like just being in that moment with yourself and helping yourself, you know, validating yourself, and then shifting a perspective and being there for you, right? Having that parental authority over yourself, like, hey, we're gonna do this. I'm here with you. You are safe. You are safe. Nothing is gonna happen to you. I am here. You are free to feel what you want, and you have all the right to feel that way, but now I'm here with you, and we are gonna do this together, and everything's gonna be okay, right? Like the whole point is to have safety behind it, the perception that you want to bring to your inner child. So even if you don't do like the whole meditation where you are visualizing this whole scenario, you can still, just by feeling, validating, and shifting your perspective alone, you can already work a lot on your shadow. A little thing I did want to note here is that you don't always want to go back to the first 7 years of your life. I've done quite a lot of work with my teenage self, and you don't want to neglect different stages in your adult journey, teenage journey, preteen journey. You don't want to ignore those stages either, right? You can do the same kind of process with these versions of yourself if you went through very traumatic things. Those traumatic things, of course, didn't happen in the first 7 years of your life. They were a result of things that were manifested in the first 7 years of your life, but you still need to work through those, right? You don't want to neglect those whatsoever, because I've done that. I really thought, I was like, okay, it's only the first 7 years, and I was neglecting my teenage self. She was so freaking pissed, and she was just showing her rage throughout my daily life until I started to work with her too. Okay, so don't forget different stages of your journey. There's trauma that we went through that if after the first 7 years, that yes, we're projections of those first 7 years, even if it doesn't look like it, but you still want to work on those. Okay, so you want to go to these and work your way back. Okay, the second thing would be to be kind to yourself. The reason why I say be kind to yourself, it's because you are always working with yourself. You need to be very careful with how you speak to you, because your subconscious mind is absolutely always open. Okay, and in the work of shadow work, we tend to be very impatient. You cannot hate yourself into evolution. You can only love yourself into evolution. That's the truth. This is why shadow work requires a level of compassion with yourself that is out of this world, because you must have compassion in order to forgive. Okay, in order to forgive yourself, in order to forgive others, which is truly how you release these chains that you have to the past, right? These fears, these doubts. In order for you to forgive, which means, by the way, not just the forgiveness of, oh, I forgive you. I mean the type of forgiveness that is recognizing that everything is happening for a reason, everything is one, and everything is divine. And that truly helps you with the shifting of perceptions of even very traumatic memories. So remember to have a lot of patience. Remember to be very compassionate. Remember, there's no such thing as being compassionate towards others if it doesn't include yourself. So having a lot of patience and not hating yourself for having these triggers is super important. All right, number 3 is to journal about your triggers. Now, I know I was saying some stuff about journaling before, but it's still really important to shed light on your shadow, because a lot of the time, once again, this is subconscious. We don't really notice it. So it's still important to journal when you have triggers. One thing that I love to do is the morning pages, which I learned in the book The Artist's Way, which is more for creativity, but it actually really does work for this as well, because obviously if you're having creative blocks, it's coming from your shadow. So the morning pages is basically the practice of waking up. Literally as soon as you wake up, literally the first thing that you do is you grab your notebook and you start writing. Because when you are in the midst of having just woken up, you're still accessing the subconscious mind. So when you start to write, your mind is dumping all of these things that are in your subconscious mind, and you have easy access to your shadow there. So you're most likely to actually write very negative things. And when you're mind dumping all of that, you can really see patterns that you hadn't seen before, triggers, insecurities, fears, doubts, and start to really analyze them from a point of view where you're noticing them, why they're happening, and even how to work on them, right? The act of doing this is very powerful. And I do 3 pages per day. That's usually what it is, right? How they say to do it in this book. I do 3 pages every single day. I force myself to do it, because when you're forcing yourself to write 3 pages, Something's gonna come out, all right? Something's gonna come out. You're gonna get to know more about yourself. Now, besides that practice of writing 3 pages a day, I also recommend writing when you're triggered, when you're pissed, whenever you're going through anything like these emotions come up. A really interesting thing that you can do is write them, okay? Writing them, writing what you're feeling in that moment, why you're feeling it, what triggered you, and start to like kind of detangle this, right? That's why therapy is also very powerful, by the way, because it's like detangling this fuzzy like ball that you have here, and you're detangling it. And when you're writing, you're almost like doing therapy to yourself, you know? So writing it out when you're triggered is also very powerful. And number 4 is to become aware. You need to work on being the observer quite a lot in your shadow work journey, because the shadow work journey, yes, it is shadow work, but it's really more like a journey into the subconscious mind. It is a huge, huge self-discovery journey where you are truly learning about the power of your subconscious mind and how it projects itself onto reality. And when you start to get into this journey, it becomes way deeper than what you ever thought it could be. So becoming an observer is truly powerful, right? Like actually noticing what you're feeling, how you're feeling, what you're thinking along with those feelings, what emotions do you have. All of that is super powerful because it leads you into realizing more about yourself, more about what you want, and not just your shadow aspects. But it's really important to understand when your shadow aspects are being triggered, when these doubts, when these fears are coming forth, and why they're coming forth, so you can work on them. And if you can't tell like when these shadow aspects are coming forth, when they're hurting others, etc., ask the people close to you. Not the toxic ones, right? Because they could make up some stuff. But you can definitely ask the people close to you, your mom, your dad, your sibling, your best friend, whatever, right? Like the things that they feel are your shadow aspects, the things that you're rejecting that you don't notice, etc. So you can actually work on them. The shadow work journey is a long journey. It's a lifelong journey. You're never going to fully integrate because you are a massive being, okay? You are a massive being, and this work that you are doing right now has been work that you have been doing for lifetimes, okay? So it's not something that you're gonna complete in like a week. It's consistency. It's a lifestyle. And I encourage you to take it seriously because I swear to God, it is so life-changing. I've dealt with hardcore substance abuse. I've dealt with very hardcore trauma as well, very dark teenage and childhood years, and overall it has been a harsh journey for me, but it was really like those aspects were really projecting themselves into mental illnesses and very hardcore destructive life patterns. But after starting to implement everything that I have shared with you today, my life has completely changed. I'm somebody who's now sharing what I learned in the spiritual journey. I've built an awesome community on Instagram and YouTube as well. I've been able to pursue my passions as a career, right? Not many people get to do that because of their shadows. And I've been able to very much change my life, change my mindset, and travel the world. It's something I'm so proud of myself. And this journey is truly transformative. I encourage you to be consistent with this. I encourage you to make it a lifestyle, make it something that is just part of your being, because I swear it is just life-changing. And you know what? As you get to know yourself, as you get to be more authentic because you are ascending, right, through shedding those layers holding you back, you inspire others, right? You know, like that match that is on fire and then the other matches get set on fire. It's the same thing. Your light is going to encourage others to find their own light. And that is the most important thing that we could do in this world to help raise the consciousness, work on ourselves, work on giving ourselves compassion, on understanding our shadow. And this is why I do not like the word healing. I used to use the word healing a lot. I used to use a lot the word wounds as well, but I feel like our shadow is there to protect us even if it doesn't really know how to. So helping to accept the shadow and to integrate it into our being, help it know that it's okay now, that it's protected, that it's safe with you, that's what's really going to change your life, right? It's not like the act of healing because there's nothing broken, there's nothing to be healed. You're not a broken toy. You're not somebody that it needs fixing, right? You're just somebody that needs to understand itself and needs to accept yourself and have compassion so you can finally reach integration. I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ira Morphy, and if you want to become your absolute best self through the metaphysical, don't forget to subscribe and like this video if it was helpful. Also check out my resources below for ways to work with me and also free classes. I'll see you on the next video.